It is time for NCDC This Week, presented by, who's that? The Dan K Show. It's right behind me. Oh no, my hockey stick's hitting me. Look at this. Found my goalie stick here. Look at this puppy, Lucas. Look at this puppy. Introducing in to see my cool hockey goalie stick that's joining the fray here in the booth. My right-hand man, my consigliere, Monfrere from another mayor, Lucas Jones. Welcome in NCDC This Week. We've got a whole lot on the docket to talk about this go-around.
We do, and I don't have my cool backgrounds today. You can see them kind of adjacent to my location. Back from a big road trip here, 2 weeks on the road for the boys, and not quite settled back into the apartment yet. But I'll tell you what, spent the morning looking at some NCDC storylines. And Dan, I think one thing we've realized is the great stories in the NCDC, not where you might think they are.
Yeah, I think where we have to start, we'll get to my boys in Mercer. I've got a little bit of a DM to read that I got this past weekend from the boys in Mercer, letting me know about the stories we had to talk about on this week's NCDC This Week. But before we get to them, we have to give come on, let's clap, Lucas. Let's clap. I'm going to tell you to clap before you even know what it is. Do you know what I'm telling you to clap about?
I don't know, but I feel like you'll tell us.
The PAL Junior Islanders, baby. Congratulations, the first team to clinch a playoff spot. As Lucas loves to say, they have punched their ticket to the NCDC postseason. They'll be in that Atlantic Division playoff. And Lucas, they are the number one seed already. They've guaranteed that they will, at the very least to this point, host any series they play in the Atlantic Division playoffs. The biggest question will be, can they finish off? And look, right now they've got a 12-point lead over Ogden, a 12-point lead over IHC. They've got every reason to do it. But can they finish off the season, have the most regular season points? And Lucas, this is an insane stat. The NCDC starting in 2017, that is when it was founded and put underway, this Tier 2 division of the USPHL. Will the PAL Junior Islanders be the very first team, not named the Jersey Hitmen, to win the regular season title and raise the Founders Cup?
They very well could be. I mean, they have exactly doubled their offensive output as their defensive statistics. I mean, we can say with relative certainty now that there will be a new Founders Cup champion this year, but I think for PAL, they've got their eye on that. They've got their eye on a few other things, a bigger trophy at the end of the year, and home ice advantage, so important. I mean, if you ever try to go to Long Island, it's a nightmare, and to not have to leave Long Island, even better.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about travel. Travel's a big part of it. Like you look at Utica, it's why they're such a tough team to play on the road. We'll talk about them on a 4-game winning streak right now with Coach Echecate educating the NCDC behind the bench of the Comets. But this PAL team, 33-2-2-1. They've only been beaten in regulation twice this season. One of those coming at the hands of the South Shore Kings in what was a grudge match style win for South Shore and Coach Tyler Holsky. Kind of a little redemption for the Deneen Cup loss last season. But this PAL team, defending Deneen Cup champions, 38 games into the season with 69 points already. They're a plus 74 goal differential. This team is unreal right now, Lucas. We go to special teams with PAL, 26.4% success rate on the power play. Only two teams better than them right now. Pueblo at 27.5 and South Shore at 27.6. But a 26.4 is an incredible number to have. Then an 83.1% penalty kill success rate for PAL. That's the best in the entire Atlantic Division. So they're the best power play team by 5 percentile points. They're the best PK team by a whole 1 percentile point. They're doing it on offense, special teams wise, doing it on defense, even strength. They're doing it as well. That's what we just talked about there with the idea of this team being plus 74 in goal differential, which, to put it into perspective, Lucas, the next best goal differential in that Atlantic Division, Connecticut with a plus 5. That is a 69 goal differential between the two of those guys. Next best in the entire league, South Shore and Ogden tied with a plus 56. This PAL team is the real deal, and they've got the league's leading scorer in Ty Broad with 58.
And they are 19-1-0-1 at home, right? So in 21 games, amassing 39 points at home, they are tough to beat when you go to the island. So it's going to be tough for teams to go there, tough for teams to win. But I think there are some teams in the Atlantic who feel they are up to the task.
Yeah, and somebody is up to the task in net for them. Before we move on to our next team, we do want to congratulate the man, the myth, the legend. It's Nicholas Bevilacqua. Bevilacqua 26 102. Oh, sorry, there's no tie. So 26 1 2 and 1 on the season. He has been beaten once in regulation as a netminder. He has 1,069 saves. He's got a 1.92 goals against, a 949 saves percentage. And Lucas, I saw you clapping already, but let's give a round of applause. Young man's going to Bentley. He's got himself a commitment. I'll tell you what, there's a little man in the Northeast who gets mad every time the USPHL or the NCDC talks about commitment. But that tiny guy is going to stay quiet on this one because Bevilacqua, born and bred in this NCDC brand, is the guy who's playing up in Boston the last 2 seasons. To go, Lucas, from 3 years ago being 1-12, 3-1 to this season winning 26 games, last season winning 21 games. He has 48 regular season wins in net. Cradle to college, development, no one does it better. And the big guys here with the Dan K show, the regular heighted guys, we're loving it right now. My short king Lucas, big Dan K, we're loving it.
I think the biggest thing for me is that it shows that development doesn't happen in a year.
Yep,
Development doesn't always happen in 2 years.
Yep.
Development takes as long as it takes. And the biggest thing that it takes is investment, not just from the teams and the leagues, but from the player themselves, right?
Yeah.
And it's the willingness to go out there after having a tough season and say, you know what, I'm going to do it again. 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 And to find yourself in the right places with the right people, it is a contribution. It takes a village. And to see a player as great personally, professionally as him, get that development, get that commitment, it is awesome. It is what we're doing, why we do what we do, Dan.
Yeah, and let's get back into really why we do what we do. I got an Instagram message, a DM. This young man sought out Dan K. Okay. And he's none other than at Marvin the God Jacobs. And when you see someone with the God in their tag, you gotta imagine this guy's he's a pretty good source for what we should be talking about on the show, Lucas. And he says, "Sup, Utes, Marv here," and that's it's a great way to start any DM. "Sup, Utes, Marv's here." All right, Marv here. You see what's popping down in Mercer? You see it? Big exclamation point. Them boys, cold Burr emoji. Okay, not Aaron Burr, but cold Burr emoji. Then he actually writes out Burr. Okay, all caps too. Burr, all caps. Show that boy Perone some love. LUV, exclamation emoji, exclamation emoji, exclamation emoji. We need you to interview some of the boys. Go Chiefs. And go Chiefs, Lucas. We're rocking our Roll Tribe right now with the Toledo Cherokee. But, we're talking Mercer Chiefs hockey right now. This team's 6-4, 0-0 in their last 10. This team's got NCDC All-Star Game stars of the game that Lucas is interviewing, guys that we have to talk to. This team's got personality. This team's got that Aaron Burr, man. You better put your coats on when you're trying to play against Robbie Broads, the broadside of the barn guy right there. You're playing against Mr. Tarantino back there, not just the greatest director of all time, but directing a hockey team from behind the bench. And you're 19-15, 1-1 right now, 40 points, same amount of games played as Connecticut, 2 points ahead of them in the standings, 2 less games played than the Rockets, 8 points ahead of them in the standings. This Mercer Chiefs team is hot as a fox in a forest fire right now. And I can feel it in the paws, Lucas. I can feel it in the paws.
Well, they're going to have a big test in February. They're going to Foxborough Showcase. They're going to have a couple of really tough games under their schedule, and then they're going to go back to Foxborough the next weekend to play the South Shore Kings. They've got the PAL Junior Islanders for a 2-game home-and-home weekend. Then they got the Twin City Thunder, the Northern Cyclones, the Utica Junior Comets, all at Foxborough Showcase. Then they go back the next weekend to play South Shore. February is the month where Mr. The God is going to be able to back up his claims, I believe. Also, Dan, going to be real honest, feeling very old. I understood, I would say, about half of those words. Okay. But I got the general vibe of it. Seems like the boys are pretty stoked right now, and I think it might be a good February for them.
I mean, they got one of my favorite defensemen in junior hockey in Kyle Kupalo here, Kupalo, 3 goals, 14 assists. It's a guy that kind of can hatch back, play the game. And how about a guy that's no joke? Henry Spoof. Okay, this guy's no joke. This guy's 18. What do I say that I love? How can I pick you a forward as a collegiate coach, scouting away, trying to find your guy? I want to find balance in scoring at this level. What does that mean, Dan? It means 18 goals, 18 assists, 36 points for Henry Spoof. It means he's giving it out as much as he's taking it back home and scoring these goals in the back of the net. This is a guy who can create for his team. This is a guy that can put the game on his back when he needs to. He leads the team in both goals and assists, 18 and 18. Then Cal Essenmacher. This guy sounds like a guy who's like, working in the meat factories of Chicago. Cal Essenmacher right here. You ain't messing around with Essenmacher, okay? You stay outside his way. You stay out of his way, okay? Deka Essenmacher, and Mercer Chiefs hockey. 11, 15, 26. Tyler Agnew, Gregory Diamond. This kid's a diamond in the rough, if you ever ask me. A little forward with a 10-13 piece for 23 points. And let's go between the pipes. You're talking Dom Gatto, but you got a lot more to talk about here in this team, Lucas. This is a team with depth between the pipes. This is a team that can get the job done day in and day out. You got a guy who's won his last 2 starts on the 27th and 28th. With only 4 goals allowed in Peter Perrone. This guy, I mean, look, a little Sunday sauce. A little Sunday sauce between the pipes here with Peter Perrone. All right, this is a guy, he's got 9 wins in his NCDC career, 5-3 last year. He's 4-6 this year, but he's heating up of late. Now's the time to get hot, Lucas.
There's no better time than now. And like I said, that stretch that starts with PAL on Friday, February 9th and ends Saturday, February 24th back in Foxborough, that is the stretch to show us what you're made of. Those are the games on the schedule that you have to not just win a bunch of them, but you got to look good. This is your chance to show not just us, but those scouts that are watching why the Mercer Chiefs should be a part of that playoff conversation.
Calling out the Mercer Chiefs right now, calling out Mr. the God, calling out the entire crew. DM us, reach out, let us know what players you want to get on a Dan K Show podcast here, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcast. Let's get an interview together. Let's talk about the Chiefs. Let's talk about the Burr Boys, baby. Let's talk about how cold things are getting in Mercer, New Jersey, and not just outside, not just temperature-wise, but in that rink, man, it's ice cold right now. Just breaking hearts, just absolutely out there being, I don't know, Lucas, the Iceman, out there being, who else could he be? What else is cold? Mr. Freeze?
Mr. Freeze, yeah.
Mr. No, certainly no Mr. Softy.
We can call him the polar vortex. I don't know. I'm a little light on the euphemisms, the acronyms here. I mean, like I said, these young people, they just have a way with words that we will never be able to match.
Hey, they're not euphemisms, okay? They're euphemisms. That's what we always say in the business. Let's keep going through it. I think the big storyline the rest of the way, Lucas, is these 3 through 6 everywhere, right? You look at the Mountain, Ogden and Utah leading the way. That's a 2-horse race for the number 1 spot in that division for the rest of the way in my mind. I think it's Ogden, it's Utah. One of those 2 teams going to make it. If I were a betting man right now and I had to throw money down on the table, I'd tell you it's going to be Ogden that makes that run at the end of this one. 5-0, 1-0, 8-1, 1-0 in their last 10. They just look like the best team right now in that division. In the New England, it's a 2-horse race. Again, on the other side, IHC and South Shore. South Shore 2 games in hand, just 3 points back of IHC. So if they win those 2 games, they are in first. So kind of like a tie right now between those 2 sides. Could go either way. IHC's lost their last 2. South Shore's won their last 2, bringing that thing closer. 7-3-0 in their last 10 for IHC. 8-2-0 in their last 10 for South Shore. Feels like South Shore is going to win that division if you made me wager on that one. But where the storyline comes in is the 3 through 6. How is this going to look entering the postseason? How are these teams going to fare? And who's going to punch their ticket, right? Who's going to make it to the postseason? Let's start, Lucas, down in the New England. Utica seems to be the clear-cut 3 at this point. They've separated themselves there. A plus 28 differential, 6-4-0 in the last 10, but more importantly, they've won 4 straight. Junior Bruins, Northern Cyclones, Twin City. Let's start with Dan Hodge, Hodgie Baby, Sonic the Hodgehog, Danny Boy, the goal pipes are calling, Danny Hodge. Twin City, 22 points right now, 10-22-0, not where they want to be, but they won their last 2, 4-6 in their last 10, 32 games played, the least out of any team in the NCDC. They've still got 3 in hand on the Bruins, down by 9 points, 5 in hand on the Cyclones, down by 7 points. Can they climb ahead of the Bruins and the Cyclones and get to the 4 spot?
Well, if they want to, the first weekend in February is going to be the weekend to do it. The Junior Bruins are heading up to Norway Savings Bank Arena for a two-game set, Friday the 2nd, Saturday the 3rd, both games at 7:30. Got to win both of those in my mind. I mean, yes, the Twin City Thunder have a couple games in hand. They got a few games to make up there, but I mean, those are the two games that are must win. You cannot let the Junior Bruins escape with any points right there. And then you look at the rest of the schedule. They've got a really tough rest of the calendar in February. They've got a ton of games. They are going to be all over the place playing hockey, but that's what this Twin City team does, right? They grind it out. That's what they've always done. So I think for the Twin City Thunder, I think they've got a legit shot here, but they've got to start things off by beating those Junior Bruins.
Now you look at this Cyclone side, Lucas, and this is a team that when I saw them at the start of the year, I was excited about this roster. I thought this team might put together something special. It's been a bit of a slow start. They've really struggled getting their feet under them and really figuring out what the attacking brand is going to be when it comes to Cyclones hockey. The Junior Bruins right now, if you put them in a much better situation where they're sitting in fourth with games in hand on this Northern team, Northern's got to get winning, and they got to get winning in bunches. And it feels like it starts with Charlie Zetterquist there, 16, 16, and 32, the leading point getter for this side.
Yeah, I think for the Northern Cyclones, this is the one of the first years we've seen where I think both the offense and the defense has struggled to find that consistency. Usually the Cyclones can find one side or the other, but this year it just hasn't really clicked for them. They haven't been able to build on some streaks. They haven't been able to get a really solid last 10. They're 4-4-2-0 in their last 10 right now. But I think you're right. I think it's got to be Zetterquist. I think you can get away with a lot by the big points guys showing up. I think you can get away with a lot by making sure those guys are really handling the puck well. But man, do they have a tough schedule. I mean, they've got to play Twin City twice. They're going to Foxborough. They're playing PAL, Mercer, and Connecticut. Then they got to go to the New England Sports Center, which is always difficult. Two games against the Rockets. So their February schedule is not doing them any favors. But these are the big moments where your big name players show up.
And now, Lucas, let's dig into the Mountain Division. You got that Junior Bruins team right now in the New England. They're minus 37 in goal differential, but where they sit right now, 15-9, 1-0, it's good enough to make their way to that 4 seed, and it looks like they're going to be tough to unseat from that spot. Let's go to the Mountain, though. 3 through 6. Provo, 22-12, 0-2, 46 points. It looks like Provo, very similar to Utica, very similar to a Mercer team, have kind of locked themselves into a spot. This is Provo. I'd say they're the 3 seed. I think the same thing. Utica's the 3 seed down there in the New England division. I think when you go up to the Atlantic, which we'll talk about in a moment, it feels like Connecticut's going to be the 3 seed there. They're the one that's the most likely to potentially get caught just because of numbers. But a 9-point lead, 3 games in hand on Pueblo, a 12-point lead on Idaho Falls with the same amount of games played. Very, very seldom do you see a team like Provo caught from behind there. So we talk Pueblo and Idaho Falls 4 and 5. 17-19, 2-1 this Pueblo team, 37 points. 36 games played, 3 games in hand on them, and only 3 points behind for Idaho Falls. It's still tough to get those wins, as you can see the last 10 for each of these teams. Idaho Falls 3-6-1-0 in their last 10. Pueblo 3-7-0-0. Idaho Falls has caught up to them by 1 point in that 10-game stretch, but they got to start working faster.
Yeah, I mean, Pueblo and Idaho Falls have basically roughly split their series. Might be one game in the one direction or the other, but Pueblo's big win against Ogden Saturday, January 27th in overtime, that's huge for them. And that's going to build some momentum going into February here. A tough schedule, but the big thing, Dan, is they're playing 2 games against this Idaho Falls side at the end of the month. So I think for Pueblo, they're a team that, you know, is just a little bit more dynamic offensively. They have 143 goals on the season, which is tied for the best offense in that Mountain Division. It's just their defense that hasn't really been able to keep pace with that. So I like the way the Pueblo is playing. I like the look of this team. You know, they've got that big win against Ogden, like I said. So I think for Pueblo right now, it might be their spot to hold on to. But what we're seeing is a trend of big games in February that will turn the tide in a moment's notice.
Lucas, there's 2 ways to look at the remaining schedule this season if you are a Spud Kings faithful, if you are a Potato Paladin, if you are a Rowdy Russet, if you are a Purple People Eater, Potato Eater, if you are
A Yellen Yukon.
or a sweet fan, a sweet potato fan, like it, whatever you are, in Spud King Nation, you can look at it this way. It's the toughest schedule in the Mountain Division remaining for any team. And you're playing the teams ahead of you almost exclusively the rest of the way. Provo, Utah, Ogden, Provo, Ogden, Utah, Pueblo. That is the month of February for these guys, okay? It's not easy. It's not an easy month. By the end of February, this Idaho Falls team will either be in a postseason spot and in control of their destiny, or they'll be in the rearview mirror gone. And Pueblo will be galloping off into the distance like the Pamplona Bulls in Spain. Okay, that's where Pueblo is going to be looking like with this schedule for Idaho Falls. It is the toughest in the league in the month of February.
I'd agree with that, right? I think that's pretty plain to see. And Idaho, I mean, we've seen them in person play, and I think they're in a way they're similar to Pueblo in the sense that they do keep games close. They play a full 60 minutes. You know, you've got the great support of all the fans in the Mountain America Center as well, which is amazing to see. But yeah, I think the schedule does not do them any favors. Let's be honest, right? And I think that Pueblo with a slightly more favorable schedule coming down the stretch, even with Idaho's games in hand, it's going to be difficult for them to climb into that 4 spot.
All right, Lucas, I agree with you. Like CBS on football Sunday, no matter what, man, they're playing a full 60 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, no matter when the games end, no matter when the local news has to get on, no matter what, they're playing a full 60 minutes. They'll slide the rest of the TV schedule on CBS.
Oh, they'll move everything. Yeah.
Everything else can move. Everything else can shift and shake. They'll lose shows. But they're playing a full 60 minutes, okay? Every single Sunday, no matter what. And that's one of my favorite things about CBS. You love it. Even with golf, too. They'll cut the golf coverage and move it off of CBS just to play that full 60 minutes.
Oh, I mean, CBS and NBC, they'll cut golf coverage for like a Coca-Cola commercial. They won't even show the golf. If NBC could get away with not showing any golf during golf, I think they would. And I think they're almost there.
Yeah, I mean, there's some times where it feels that way about some of the guys who cover hockey around the country as well. Like, if they could just show hockey without ever showing the hockey, give us more hockey. Give us more puck, baby. We want to see more ice. In the Atlantic Division, Lucas, Connecticut's sitting in that 3 spot. This is the least guaranteed 3 spot of all the 3s, right? It feels like Provo's set in the Mountain. It feels like Utica's set in the New England. Connecticut, a 6-point advantage, 2 games in hand on the Rockets, so everything they need in the toolbox to get this done. Does Connecticut close out that 3 seed in your mind?
You know, I agree that this is probably the most toss-up spot that's available in the 3 divisions. I don't see Wilkes-Barre, Scranton Knights, or the Jersey Hitmen obviously getting to where they are. They both struggled to find that consistency. And for the Rockets Hockey Club, I just think the defense isn't there. I don't really see. They're opening February with 2 games against PAL. And they've got to play Wilkes-Barre, the Junior Bruins, Islanders Hockey Club, and Northern Cyclones. Teams with competent, very good offenses. And I think for the Rockets, you know, the defense just hasn't been there. I think that will hurt them down the stretch. If I were to throw a guess out there, I would say the Connecticut Junior Rangers are going to lock up that 3 spot, but it is not going to be without a little bit of sweat. We saw that sweat at the end of last year, right? Connecticut literally having to play the final 5 minutes of the game for a spot right at the end of the season. So I think Connecticut, if they can close out the season above 500 and do it with some authority, I think they've got that spot locked up.
Let's play my favorite game show right now, the Jersey Hitmen. This is a team that has won the Founders Cup in 2017, 2018, 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, 2020, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, and now in 23, 24, this would be the first time in NCDC history that they are not the Founders Cup. That is already clinched. They cannot win the Founders Cup. They have 15 games remaining, 27 points on the year. The most they can get is 30, which would get them to 57, which still would not be enough to pass PAL, even if they did not win again. So they will not be the Founders Cup champions. Can they make the postseason? 5 points behind a Rockets Hockey Club team, 13, 19, 5, and 1. 1 point behind a Wilkes-Barre team that is 1-6, 2-1 in their last 10, really struggling of late. The Wilkes wagon off the tracks right now at the NCDC level. Jersey 4-6 in their last 10, Rockets 4-5-1-0. So the Rockets have a point gained on them in the last 10. This 15-game schedule starts with an immediate huge matchup in New Jersey against the Mercer Chiefs side that has had their numbers. Saturday, Sunday, Mercer Chiefs Hitmen home and home series. How do the Hitmen come out of this one, Lucas? Because I think if they come out of this one with 0 points, I'm putting the final nail on my selection of I don't think they make it. I think if they come out with 2 or more from Mercer, watch out. This Hitmen team still in the chance for the dance.
Well, I would agree with that as well, right? I think you need 2 points. I would even go so far as to say you need three, to really consider yourself a contender here. But I want to take a brief look back through January and December for the Jersey Hitmen. Losing to Pal by 1, losing to Pal by 3, another loss by 3, a win by 3, a loss by 3, a win by 2. You go to January, beating the Rockets Hockey Club 9-1, then losing to Pal again, but again, only by 2. Then the next night, losing by 1. The defense is not the issue for the Jersey Hitmen. In some ways, Dan, the offense isn't even the issue for the Jersey Hitmen. It's one goal, it's one bounce, it's one redirect. You are looking at a Jersey Hitmen team that is a D20 dice roll away from having this win-loss column flipped on its head. So, yes, I think if the Jersey Hitmen can get 2 points out of this upcoming weekend, they're locked in on a course potentially for a playoff spot. If you get 3, I love that even more. But I think the big thing is the last 2 months I've seen the Jersey Hitmen play some of the closest hockey that I've ever watched a team play in the NCDC. They just haven't gotten that bounce. The bounces will come. If there's ever a team that's due, it might be the Jersey Hitmen.
And here's the big storyline. The craziest thing about the game of hockey is you can win games and you can lose games in so many different ways, right? And in the end, a win counts as 2, a loss counts as 0, getting an OT and losing, getting a shootout and losing counts as 1. No matter how you get there, the points are what matter at the end of the day, right? Like this Hitmen team, 27 points in dead last in the Atlantic. They're a -14. The Mercer Chiefs, 40 points, 13 more points gained than them, are only 12 goals better than them in goal differential at a -2. So the difference between dead last and second place, very small. Jersey in dead last with -14 in goal differential. Ahead of them, Wilkes-Barre with 28 points of 1 extra point than them, a -34, 20 goals in differential worse than them. The Rockets Hockey Club, 5 points better at 32 points right now, sitting in that 4th playoff spot, -41. They've allowed the most goals in the division with 157 allowed. They've allowed the most goals in the country at 157 allowed. That is the most goals allowed of any team out of all 18 in the NCDC, and they're sitting in a postseason spot right now. So you see this as a Hitmen team playing a defensive style. You see it's a Rockets team that's running and gunning with you, and they're playing that Kersner style of get bodies to the net, take chances, make plays, be an athlete out there. Run and gun versus defense. Look, if you were telling me about a playoff series, I'd go defense all day. You're telling me 2 out of 3? Right now, I might side on the defensive side, but I like an open offensive style in the regular season. If you're telling me to pick a team out of these 3 right now to be that 4th seed, it's the Rockets Hockey Club, and I think they're a team that can run and gun with the best of them.
It'll certainly be interesting down the stretch. I mean, the Atlantic was very interesting to watch as well towards the end of last year. And we've got more games this year. We've got a full February slate, a full March slate as well for some of these teams. For the Rockets, I mean, you're not really looking at goal differential like you say, right? You're looking more at teams that can win hockey games. So the Rockets have a great asset on their side in their ability to score. It'll come down to, I think, how the other teams decide to play the Rockets. I mean, you're seeing a little bit more of the Rockets losing games by large margins, which to me tends to indicate that teams are not quite figuring them out, but teams are able to kind of unload a little bit. And the Jersey Hitmen were one of those teams. The Jersey Hitmen, that 9-1 score, you don't normally take one game out of a whole sample size, but I am in this case. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Jersey Hitmen end up in a playoff spot here. I think it is the Rockets' spot to lose. I will say that. If the Rockets can either hold on or they can abdicate that 4th spot, it is entirely on them.
Lucas, I do want to bring this up. It's been a long time since we've done an NCDC weekly pick special, and we are tied at the top of the NCDC picks now. And
Yes,
I think it all starts tomorrow afternoon, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Foxborough Sports Center, Rink 1, as the Islanders Hockey Club take on the South Shore Kings, and the winner is in a much better spot and in a driver's seat in that New England division. Who do you got, IHC, on the road against the South Shore Kings?
I've got the South Shore Kings here. I mean, I
Ooh.
think on the road, it's not a very far road that separates those two teams. And you're not looking at something like the Mountain America Center where you've got 5,000 people, kind of hooting and hollering for you. But I look at the South Shore team, Dan, and I know you have as well. You've been impressed by them all season. I've been impressed by them all season. Two teams that are nearly identical in almost every measurable way. But I just think South Shore sees the fact that they've got two games in hand and they see IHC across from them and they know this is must win for them.
I'll tell you what, you talk about the South Shore brand right now. Check out their social media. Go follow the South Shore Kings on social media. It is the best social media experience in the league. Lucas,
100%.
I am working on our end of season award show. We're going to be doing a little bit of the Danksters instead of the Oscars. It's the Dank Stars. It looks like an
Name
Oscar.
still under review.
No, it is not. It is everyone gets a plaque of me with a bow tie. They get a bobblehead Dan K, and they get to take home their own bobblehead Dan K if they win with their trophy on the bottom. I'm budgeting for it, and by budgeting for it, I'll be asking Bob Turrell for $1,000 cash to go buy bobbleheads of myself with little plaques on them that say that you guys won. But I'll tell you right now, if you had to give me a leader in the clubhouse and social media, give me a leader in the clubhouse and growing a brand in the New England division, how about the South Shore Kings? How about the investment they're making? How about Tyler Holsky behind the bench? That is an organization that does it right. And when you do it right, it stands out. When you do it right, the right players come to your building. When you do it right, you win hockey games. When you do it right, you commit players to college over and over and over again. And no one's doing it better than South Shore. South Shore by a zillion Thursday afternoon. I got the Kings, baby, reigning supreme. Lucas, you get to pick a matchup now that you would like us to pick. You get to pick the matchup. You get to pick the game. You get to put me on the spot and ask me who I want to pick.
It would have been so easy, Dan, if we had come up with this little game before we had started.
This is the point, though. It's live. It's people are in it. They're feeling a part of it. They're like, whoa, I'm kind of inside of it. This is kind of like a hat on a hat right now. You know what I mean? A pizza on a pizza. What do you got? I'm trying to stall.
All right, here's what I got for you. So I'm scanning through the games right now, so people know what I'm kind of looking at here. Scanning through all of the games, trying to figure out what looks good, and I want to pick a team that we've talked about as kind of needing that little bit of a boost, wanted to go on a little bit of that run, and a team that needs a little boost and wants to go on that run is the Twin City Thunder, a team that we talked about needing to put that series needing to put that team on the right track here. They've got a ton of hockey coming up, but this weekend, Dan, February 2nd and February 3rd, they're welcoming the Junior Bruins into the Norway Savings Bank Arena. For me, I think both of these games are must win for Twin City, but I'm going to throw a wrench into it here, and I'm going to pick the second game, the Saturday game. I always like picking second games because I think there's a little bit more toss-up nature to them, especially when teams travel. But for the second game, I'm sticking with the Twin City Thunder here because I think that their eyes are looking ahead towards making a little bit of a run. I think that the Junior Bruins defense, not where it tends to be. And our Haji baby, our Sonic the Hedgehog, a little bit of a schemer. He's going to figure something out and he's going to win that game too.
I'd like you to refrain from using eyes on or these eyes or anything about eyes going forward. For the folks who don't know a little behind the scenes of Dan K, 2024 has been coming after your boy Dan K. Okay, yep. It has been attacking me. I kicked off 2024 with a severe flu that sent me into the doctor, sent me into the emergency ward, had me on 3 IV drips, dropped 11 pounds, okay? Then we put it all back on. We're getting healthy. We're feeling good. We're eating away. And then Dan K gets some dog hair in his eye on a road trip. And next thing you know, an allergic reaction happens. And Dan K's eyeballs look like he went to war with I don't know, in my eyeballs. It was not good. It was almost disgusting, I'd say, Lucas, would be the word for it.
It is, and we've actually got a picture of a future Lucas.
No, we will not be putting that on the air. That will
That's fair.
stay
We
off
won't
the
go.
air. That takes our PG rating away. I think that makes us immediately rated R. If you saw those eyes, it was terrifying,
These eyes are
horrific.
crying.
If you want to look at Hitch, the movie with Will Smith, not a good movie, but there is a scene where he has an allergic reaction, very much what Dan K looked like. It was terrifying, terrifying to say the least. Dan K is back. We're healed. Eye drops worked. No more illnesses 2024, please. It's only January. I have nothing left. I'm exhausted. Lucas, that game, I'm taking Twin City as well. I think Twin City's sweeping that series this weekend. That's why I'm taking Twin City. Sonic the Hedgehog is on the move. I don't think he loses again this month. I think he's on a rocket ship to the moon. I think the Thunder are going to find a way to take that fourth seed in that division. My game, it's Saturday as well. And I'll tell you what, they should rename this team. They're so cold. They're so cold. You got to rename this team the Mercer Chills because you're going to Burr Town, baby. You're heading into the ice block. You're heading in there to get cooled off. And we just talked about a Jersey Hitmen team not going to win the Founders Cup for the first time in the history of the NCDC. They've got to win. This is must win for the Hitmen. They cannot lose. But I'll tell you who can't lose, baby. It's the Mercer Chills. Woo! We're feeling cold right now in Mercer land. Mercer 4-2 win. I think they get 3 points out of the weekend. I think they get this first one. Big win for Mercer.
Well, Dan, this is where you and I are going to disagree a little bit because as much as I love the enthusiasm, I truly love the enthusiasm of the boys from Mercer, including Mr. The God, especially for reaching out. And again, to players, reach out to us on social media, DM us. It's so much hockey to cover when you reach out to us with players who want to do interviews, who want to talk to us about stuff. We're always happy to get you guys on the air as much as we can. But that being said, I think Saturday, the Jersey Hitmen hit the reset button a little bit on the season. And again, I don't think it's a reset button. The amount of coin flips that this team has had to deal with have just been incredible. The amount of times that a coin is flipped and comes up tails, eventually it's got to start coming up heads. That's how probability works. So I think that the Jersey Hitmen win that Saturday game 3-2. I think you might see that Sunday game go to OT, but I think the Hitmen are taking the Saturday game.
We are all tied up in our picks. That is our 3 selections for this week. Let us know your thoughts at @the_NK Show, Facebook, X, Instagram, or TikTok. You can go to any of those 4. Let us know about our picks. Let us know how we did. Lucas, your parting words for NCDC this week with the Dan K Show. That's a long episode, so I'm going to be quick on this one. Love you guys. When Dan K's on the mic, it's always hockey night. Be sure to tune in on Flow Sports all weekend long.